Ademola Oshodi joins us next. He's a policy analyst and he's is a consultant on governance with the World Bank. He was also with the DFID. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, this elections is unique in many ways. Changes that INEC has introduced, even several meetings that they've had with political parties who in turn have made suggestions which they say INEC also implemented. Let's start from the collection of the PVCs. Much as we still have people who have said, look, we did what we can to see if we could collect our PVCs, but we didn't. But as at yesterday, that's deadline day. And so INEC has been able to achieve some, they say from the figures we have here, 81.98%. That of the 68,833,476 people registered, you have a little over 56 million who have collected their PVCs who will vote. But the rest, nothing can happen. Do you think this will in any way take away anything from these elections?
Well, I've always said that even 75% is a really good score. The higher the turnout, the actual voting day, the better. That's really what matters at the end of the day. But I don't believe it's going to drastically affect the voting in any ways. You can't have 100%. We can still, in many ways, ensure that the turnout of voters is quite, substantial, and that's really what it counts at the end of the day. If you have 80 or 90 or even 95% of people that picked up their permanent voter's card, and on voting day you have a turnout of 30% or 40%, it kind of questions the validity of the election and even the legitimacy of the candidate that wins. So the biggest concern right now should be the actual turnout of voters on election day. The larger, the better. We hear a turnout of 50, 60% of those people, the 68 million people that could have picked up their PVC. That would be fantastic. On a normal democracy, an advanced democracy, a turnout of 60% is remarkable.
You know, all of this introduction and changes that INEC is bringing in is to enhance the integrity of the elections, to the extent that anyone who goes out to vote can truly say, yes, my vote counted. I mean, we own this process. But at the end of the day, whichever way the pendulum swings, do you think that if there's violence, all of this process would have been defeated? People will say, look, well, yes, it counted, but this is not what I want.
Depends on the level of violence. I can assure you there will be violence around election day and probably post-election, but we hope it's not something that would basically jeopardize the security of that area or that locality or even the country. But yeah, it all depends. And there's always violence in a developing, evolving democracy like Nigeria. But we want to ensure that it doesn't in many ways hamper the turnout, it doesn't hamper the outcome, and it doesn't hamper future elections, people coming out to vote being intimidated, etc. But it's quite competitive. It's quite a competitive election. This is the closest we've ever had, and issues of cultural, moral authority like elections is something that has to be developed. It's not something we can, like an institutionalized or visionary authority like a law or a constitution that is basically brought up by man. Cultural moral authority like voting and not being violent on election day has to be developed, it has to evolve in our political psyche. So we are getting there, we are slowly getting there. There's more attention, there's more focus towards that.
Well, you've used the word turnout several times this morning, and that brings us to education again. And you say we're getting somewhere. The awareness is growing, and such kind of awareness is also what some people say we lacked during the collection period for the PVC. For us not to have that kind of low turnout, for some that have deliberately, whatsoever reason, not to go pick up the PVC, what kind of education we as a people can give to them to make sure that they turn out en masse to exercise their civic duty on that day?
I think it's really emphasizing the importance of that election or their voting and the fact that it matters. Many people say, oh, it's just one vote, it doesn't make a difference, especially the middle class. The middle class are the biggest, I say, biggest obstacle, the elites, to this election. Many of them will not bother to stand out in the sun, line up for an hour or two to vote. Many of them would rather be in the comfort of their house with air conditioning on, while the market women, the Okada drivers, the students, even the elderly would make that effort to vote. So it's ensuring there's a complete turnout going across class and age group.
Let me jump in there. What do you think can make that change?
Well, I think the best we can do is what we're doing right now, is educate the electorate and ensure...
The middle class should know better.
They should, and they are the ones that basically determine, they're the ones that influence the public opinion. They come out on TV, television like this, they go on newspapers, they write articles, they fund a lot of this.
Because the trend
campaign
has to change. Because the moment you talked about that, I think you hit it on the head. I just had the picture of really, over the years, most of these people who you see on the queue, even when it does rain, are these
working class people.
Class people, and it really must change, because they are also the ones who would complain about governance, of not getting the benefit of what they have gone all out to do.
Yes.
So, as Chamberlain rightly puts it, how do we correct this, mix, so that this can be a stop to getting more and more of this in subsequent elections?
We can try and make it as convenient for the middle class.
What kind of convenience?
Well, it's it all depends on funding. Well, we can ensure that voting is fast and done on time. We ensure that people's security is ensured in that polling booth. So the middle class, they have more to lose with all their money, and that they feel safe. We can ensure that basically we know that the vote will count. They will feel as if
time and security as setbacks.
Absolutely, and obviously making it as convenient, as comfortable environment as possible.
Some people will say that perhaps that notion is beginning to change, in the sense that if the process gets a little more credible, then people will be a little more willing to come out and vote. I do recall in 2011 covering election in some middle class neighborhoods, and some people had rented canopies, and they had rented chairs. Rather than queue in the sun, they were sitting comfortably and waiting for INEC to get their thing done. So do you see that the dynamics of this particular election, which you say are the closest we've ever come to it, and the fact that INEC is putting certain things in place to make the process a little more credible,
yes,
do you think it could affect the turnout that we will see in these elections?
It would. Overall, if the individual is passionate about making their vote count, they will jump hoops and crawl through mud.
Because what we're saying right now with the PVC collection, you find that people have gone over and over and over again trying to collect their PVCs, and people are wondering, is this just for the sake of collecting PVC, or do you think that people will actually turn up on that day with their cards to vote?
Yes, I'm pretty sure with the awareness out there, a lot of people there'll be a larger turnout. It's very competitive. It will be a larger turnout, but who will be the people turning out? Is it going to be the poor, working class folks? Is it going to be middle class? Is it going to be rich? It needs to be quite a wide spread of people. And if you ask the average middle class person, I would tell you 4 out of 10 would not come out to vote. They would find some excuse.
And that might be true. Let's take Lagos, for instance, because if you look at the demographics of Lagos, and you're looking at 65% voters picking up their PVCs, and if you're going to use that on election day, because you do not expect that everybody will turn up to vote, there are lots of people who have their cards for one reason or the other, might not be able to vote on that particular day. We're also going to put that into consideration. The fact that where people registered might not be necessarily where they live now, but for the sake of picking up PVCs, they've done that as well.
Absolutely.
How do you think that is also going to affect the elections?
It's going to affect people. I know a lot of people that they will say, oh, I used to live in Lokoja. Now I'm in Ajakuta. I would vote there. You can't vote. They're not aware. Many people are not aware that where you registered 4 years ago is where you should be voting. If you moved from there, if you have not informed INEC prior to picking up your permanent voter's card, you cannot vote. You will get to the polling unit and they will refuse you. A lot of people are not aware. I'm not sure INEC has actually ensured that information is out there as much as possible. Or maybe just people are just too ignorant or lazy to pick up that information. But
you know, sometimes I laugh at some of my colleagues who have done all they can to register and get their PVCs. I just say, look, on that day we're all going to be seated here, yes. So we'll be able to go out there and do what we have to do. Yes. This is what we have always done over the years. But do you see a day wherein, I mean, you talked about security and all of those issues that can make people just go out there and vote real quick.
Yes.
How soon, perhaps, do you think that this can happen where, even on a working day, it will be major elections, and we'll just go there, vote, and then everybody goes home, and the results will be out in no time?
That's why we have the permanent voter's card.
But not electronic voting yet.
Not electronic, but the permanent voter's card. Once it's permanent, so you have that card for years to come, and it will be obviously be easier for you to change the details there if you move address, etc. So technically, I mean, in theory, you put the voters. I mean, you take your voter's card, they take it, and you vote. It identifies you. You vote. You walk out. That should be seamless. That should be fast. It's new now. We're going to have hiccups. We're going to have doubters. It's natural. But if we continue on that issue of technology, that makes things faster, makes things more efficient, and people will hopefully trust the system. It is an evolving democracy. People have an issue of trust and of the system. So it's something that has to be built.
You know, I'm thinking that first time, I mean, this weekend, the big weekend where we go out, there'll be lots of issues. We'll be faced with so much because, yes, it's the first time out you're trying this card. You'll have those who think that they can vote at any polling unit. You'll have those who think that, well, I went to try and collect my TVC, I couldn't, I have my PVC, they'll think they can vote. They'll come on that day. And then you have those who will perhaps try clone cards. Let's see if that was a fluke.
Exactly.
Especially those states that INEC did not conduct this mock test. And then you have so many challenges.
You have people that would come and they will expect to be put on that the list. I can't remember what the paper is called. The
register
form.
Registered form. People that have complaints. So basically, the PVC is not recognized. So a lot of people can still come in with fake cards and everything. So, well, the PVC, the card reader is not reading my card. Therefore, give me an incident form to fill. So INEC needs to ensure that it's not another, loophole or another way for people to cheat the system. So you come in there, you say, the PVC, the card reader is not reading my card.
This is where security comes in.
Security, awareness, and obviously the voters themselves.
Again, we'll go back to awareness. Political parties, the NOA, the information ministries, states, local government, and even council, have they been doing much of that?
Well, it all depends on what you determine as much. They would say they've been doing much. They would say they
information concerning the elections.
Yeah, I think I think they can do more. They can definitely do more. The biggest assistance for democracy right now is social media. The information passes out through your phone, and you get the information, whether it's true or not. But it's hopefully for you to verify. So it's important that everybody, whether the social media, bloggers or whoever, get that information out. But they can always do more. Government will complain about funding, etc. So it's very important that in this election, it's what we are improving upon that is more important than actually what is on ground. It needs to be an improvement from the 2011.
Okay, Ademola Oshodi is a policy analyst. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, so there you have it. We'll be back after the break and see if we could take some comments from you today. Join us again.